Good Tuesday evening, everyone. The October 12th, 2021 meeting of the Marion County School Board is called to order. We are the Marion County School District Leadership Team. When we come together to work, we are efficient, effective, and productive. Our three most important characteristics are dedicated, transparent, and individually responsible. To work well together, we must demonstrate respect, confront reality, and be accountable. We will always put students first, and we will leave a legacy of success. I would like to remind members of the audience, for the courtesy of those listening to the meeting, to please turn off your electronic devices or put them on vibrate. Later in the meeting, up to 30 minutes will be provided for individuals to address the board on matters concerning the operation of the Marion County school system or the school board only. Presentations to the board are limited to 5 minutes and are televised. Good evening. The page stuck. If you wish to address the board regarding a regular agenda item or matters on which the board customarily takes action, you must first complete a peach form located on the table in the hallway. If you wish to address the board regarding a public hearing or a student discipline matter, please complete a lime green form. These forms must be fully completed and received by the board's secretary no later than 5:40 p.m. The procedures applicable for each are on a separate sheet. Madam Secretary, please now call the roll.
Mrs. Allison Campbell, District 1.
Here.
Mr. Don Browning, District 2.
Here.
Mr. Eric Cummings, District 3.
Here.
Mrs. Nancy Thrower, District 4.
Here.
Mrs. Kelly King, District 5.
Here.
Dr. Diane Gullett, Superintendent.
Here.
Mr. Jeremy Powers, School Board Attorney.
Here.
Thank you. And I'd now like to welcome Mr. Eddie Leedy, Executive Director of the Humane Society, to please come forward and provide us with the inspiration and the pledge.
All right, thank you and good evening. Thank all of you for inviting me here today. I'm here as the Executive Director from the Humane Society. I also have my beautiful wife with me and also our Humane Education Director, Amanda Thurber. Tonight I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to work in the schools with Humane Education. Many of you have probably seen the BARK bus that we take to the schools and provide a curriculum for the students in Marion County. Also at the shelter, I would like to remind everyone that on the second and fourth Saturday of the month, we have Doggone Good Reading, where we section off a section of the kennels, and we have children from age 6 to 13 to come in, and they're provided with books, and they actually sit in front of the kennels and read to our dogs in the shelter. So if you get the opportunity, please come by and visit us. If you haven't had an opportunity to meet Amanda or see the BARK bus, you can come by our shelter and meet both of Amanda and tour the school bus. I was talking with Lady Chairman, and I understand that maybe, possibly, hopefully in the near future, we'll get the BARK bus back into school and continue with the humane education. If y'all would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and thank you all for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Leedy. It's always a pleasure to see you, and thank you for your partnership as well. We know the outcomes of students that are raised to be kind to animals and the outcomes of those that don't.
Yes.
So
I explained to a lot of people it's like the DARE program for drugs. Yeah. Just another program to educate them on how they should interact with animals. So it's awesome.
Certainly are a huge part of our culture here in Marion County.
Yes, ma'am. And you do a lot for the animals, and we appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we'll welcome Ms. Megan Magamol, Foundation Officer of the Public Education Foundation of Marion County, to introduce our new school business partner for Horizon Academy. She's making her way through the crowd, I'm sure. Thank you, Mr. Christian.
Always.
Oh, there she is.
Good afternoon, school board members and Superintendent Dr. Gullett. On behalf of the Public Education Foundation of Marion County and Marion County Public Schools, very excited tonight to recognize one of our newest business partners, Conrad Tree Service, who is here with us. If you'd like to come up, we have Will and Tom and Lori Conrad from Conrad Tree Service, along with their new business partner school, Horizon Academy at Marion Oaks, and Principal Don Mayer. So we are very excited that this new partnership has begun. We have a plaque to recognize and thank our business partners for their valuable contribution to our school district and to their new school, Horizon Academy. So thank you all for showing your support this evening and recognizing their efforts to make Horizon Academy a wonderful school.
I want to say thank you. First, the foundation. This is my fifth year as principal without a partner. I begged for partners. I went to every business in the Marion Oaks area, up and down 484, and couldn't get one. Not did I know that the person I've been going to football games with was looking to partner as well. And so my son went through Ms. Conrad's kindergarten classroom. Will and my son and Tom and I went to football games together. It was a perfect match. We actually met in a parking lot a week before we even found out we were looking to do this, and just started talking. Hadn't seen each other in years. And a month later, the foundation did a great job of putting some businesses together to try to partner up with the schools. I think we're at 3 or 4 at the time, and now all the schools are filled with at least one partner. I can't thank the foundation enough. Enough money comes out of our pockets to fill what we need in schools, and this money will really help us a lot. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Principal Mayer. Yes, and on behalf of the whole board, we know that the school districts that have the greatest community involvement generally have the greatest schools. So this is just another example of that commitment from the community and our business partners to help make our schools great. So thank you so much. And if you have other things to share, please, now's the time. You're good?
Thank you.
Funny how that seems to go.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Thanks for
And thank you, Megan, for your incredible work.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, Dr. Gullett.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Nice to see you all. I recommend approval of the agenda for the October 12th, 2021 school board meeting with the materials in the board packet. Those materials distributed to board members at the meeting, and the audio recording included as part of the official record of the meeting, with the exception of items C6.1, C6.3, C9.1, C10.1, C12.1, C12.2, C12.6, C13.1, and C14.1 that have been pulled and placed under discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Gullett. May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Campbell,
Second.
seconded by Vice Chair King. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the July 22nd, 2021 administrative briefing and work session?
So move.
Moved by Board Member Cummings,
Second.
seconded by Vice Chair King. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. It's really hard to hear behind me. Be glad when we can all be together. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the July 27th, 2021 special school board meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Campbell,
Second.
seconded by Board Member Cummings. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the July 27th, 2021 school board meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Chair King, seconded by Board Member Cummings. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to persons requesting to address the board. I will now ask the school board's attorney to explain the rules governing persons who wish to address the school board tonight. Good evening, Attorney Powers.
Good evening, Chair Thrower. In compliance with Section 286.0114 of Florida statutes, the school board has adopted uniform procedures for public speakers who wish to speak at tonight's meeting, either regarding one of tonight's agenda items or a matter relating to the operations of the school district. These procedures will ensure the public has a reasonable opportunity to be heard on school board and school district matters. A written summary of these procedures is available from the table in the hallway. Public speaker forms are also located on the same table. The completed forms were due to the school board secretary no later than 5:40 p.m. Tonight's speakers will be called prior to business portion of the school board's meeting in the order of receipt by the school board secretary. Before you begin speaking, please state your full name and address for the record and spell your last name. Each speaker will have 5 minutes of time. However, if there are more than 5 persons who wish to speak, the board may seek consensus to limit each speaker's time to 3 minutes. When the speaker has 1 minute remaining, the speaker will receive a visual notice to complete his or her comments. Speakers may not yield their time to other people. Speakers and meeting attendees are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. Verbal attacks and profanity are strictly prohibited. Pursuant to the procedures for public comments, item 6, speakers are not to identify specific individuals other than themselves or their child, unless the statement's provided 24 hours in advance. The board is here to listen to your comments only. You may be directed to an administrator or staff member following the conclusion of your comments for further assistance to address your concerns. If there are matters dealing with student discipline, including expulsions, they will be scheduled at the conclusion of the televised portion of this meeting. Parents may address the board regarding a discipline matter at that time. To ensure student privacy, only a parent or guardian may use a student's first or last name. Identifying references to or identification of other students and/or their families are also strictly prohibited. A public speaker's speech does not reflect the endorsement, sponsorship, position, or expression of the school district. Thank you for your attention to the board's requirements. Chair, that concludes my explanatory remarks.
Thank you, Attorney Powers. Secretary Martinez-Lopez, how many speakers do we have this evening?
We have 4, Madam Chair.
4, okay. And are they all similar topics or
No, ma'am.
all different? Okay, great. All right, well, under the circumstances, I think that we can certainly provide the 5 minutes to everyone, and we'll look forward to hearing the comments. I don't know if anyone out in the audience has been following school board meetings regularly, but I believe that we're all very proud of the respectful and courteous nature that our meetings have been conducted under. And as board chair, I expect that to continue. We love having people show up, and we look forward to the day where we can have a much fuller room than you see this evening, and hopefully eventually be in a place more similar to an auditorium, for example, so that we can truly continue to welcome the community into our meetings. It's very, very important. So let's all do what we know is right. Thank you. All right, first speaker.
Mr. Robert Schmidt.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Bob Schmidt, 11488 Southwest 82nd Court Road, SCHMIDT. Madam Chair, board members, thank you for giving us the opportunity this evening. I'm new to the area and come from Fairfax County, Virginia, a place where many of you are now aware of, okay? I moved from Virginia to Ocala in January of 2020, only to experience something that I had never thought would happen in this country. As a nation, we acquiesced to a lockdown while not thinking about what the consequences would be. Whether the lockdown was planned or not, there was a silver lining in it. Parents would be exposed to material and curriculum being taught to their children. The material was broad in scope, some of it being radically un-American and counter to the constitutional underpinnings of this great country. This is what gave rise to the outbreak, what you see now, of citizen involvement in the school boards. I'm also certain that this was not this was an unintended consequence of the lockdowns and a problem for globalists. What you see tonight are people who love God and country and exceeds their temptation to sit at home in their easy chairs and watch the stuff that undermines our core values. The citizens here tonight are here to let you know you have support to make educational decisions that promote American values and unity. We are citizens who believe in real education as the building blocks necessary for enabling students to live successful lives. Yes, we are rightfully skeptical of globalist agendas that loathe the American experience. Prescribing a specific way of thinking or narrow presentation of historical events without the breadth of history is programming, and it is divisive. We are citizens who do not agree with globalist agendas that use demographics and see it as both divisive and offensive. While Marion County schools may not be infected by globalist disease yet, if we let our guard down, we will become a victim of that disease. We realize you all have a day job, and this can be a thankless job. These are long hours that you spend doing this stuff. But I want you to know I will support you as a school board and in the decisions that promote unity, freedom of thought, and the expression of thought in open and safe learning environments. We want you to know you have the support from your community to make decisions that promote American values that share the richness of our history. Our goal is to ensure our schools remain institutions of learning, not institutions for programming. I'm going to repeat that. Our goal is to ensure our schools remain institutions of learning, not institutions of programming. In closing, I'd like to share a thought with you about the citizens you see before you tonight. Look at us as your sentinels guarding the gates of American values. We should be perceived as support for your decisions that promote American values. Look at us as passionate advocates for a future generation of American, of free thinkers, and not whatever the divisive media wants to call us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Kenneth Maria.
Going to be a little wet. Hi, my name's Kenneth Maria. I live at 9590 Southwest 93rd Loop, Ocala, Florida, 34481. Let me make a quick reference here. Nancy, I was glad to hear you say that you would like to see more people come to these meetings. And that was going to be part of my thought tonight, is that we have exactly 8 chairs here, okay? Why can't we, in the near future, move the school committee meetings to where the county commission has their meetings? Considerably more seating, where? 5,000 chairs? I mean, it's a lot better than trying to pack 8 people in here and the rest of them are out there when nobody can hear what's going on. Okay? Thank you for saying that. My other question is, how many students have not re-enrolled since the virus happened? When they came back to school, did you have a decline in your student count?
We'll be happy to answer questions at a different time, but this is your time to share.
Well, I'm asking for an answer in wonderment that how many children did not return to public school that went to homeschooling? And the reason I ask that is if I have a child in school here and say it costs $2,000 a year to educate him, I pull him out. Where's my $2,000 go? I don't get it back, and you're not spending it teaching him, so where does that money go? Anybody answer? Probably not. Yeah, thank you.
I'll be happy to talk to you. I'm looking forward to it.
I don't have to listen just to you. I mean, other members can tell me. I don't mind.
This is your time, sir.
My time, yeah. That's a good answer.
Your time.
Okay. I would like to address this to Kelly. Kelly, I heard in the grapevine that you're pushing for third grade, 3-year-old education or three-year-old schooling. Yes, no?
that I'm pushing for, well,
You wanted 3-year roles to be involved in early education is basically what it amounts to.
you know, the chair, this is your time, but give me a call and I will gladly discuss.
I don't want to call you. I want to listen to you now.
Well, you have 2 minutes and 22.
She's got plenty of time to answer me, then I'll stand here and wait.
We'll sit
I would just like you to answer the question, that's all. I'm asking you that your job is to give an answer to me what your philosophy is.
Attorney Powers, would you please review the guidelines for this gentleman?
That'll take up the other 2 minutes, right?
No, we'll hold it for you.
As I stated at the beginning, that the board is here to listen to your comments only. You may be directed to an administrator or staff member following the conclusion of your comments for further assistance and to address your concerns. But this is time for public comment, not time for question and answer session.
If you make a comment and you're requesting an answer, why can't you get an answer?
This isn't a question and answer session, it's a public comment session.
Then why have this? If the citizen can't get an answer to their question, why bother having this?
I just answered you now. This is the public comment
You didn't answer
session.
me really, is what you didn't do. You just kind of fluffed it off.
Sir?
I would expect that, okay? Thank you.
Dr. Gullett, this gentleman did raise some questions that I know can easily be answered because we've discussed them at length in other board or other work sessions. And there isn't anything more frustrating than wanting answers to questions, and it's too bad this was not the forum to have a question and answer. But if there is an administrator around that can address a couple of his specific questions before he leaves tonight, I know that would hopefully be a little bit of a relief to you, sir.
Certainly, Madam Chair, and Ms. Talbert Irving and Ms. Boston Ellis are both outside and would be happy to meet with him to talk about full-time equivalency and how we are funded through full-time enrollment of students, and can provide some data on the number of students that are no longer with us that did not return.
Yes, and also what we've done to track down the ones that were missing.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
For the record, I will state that nearly every question that was asked tonight, you can go online and you can find, it's already been discussed, and it's public, it's out there. Nobody's playing hide the ball. You can certainly watch on YouTube. It has all of the questions everything you've brought up has been discussed in a public work session already or in a school board meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Gary White?
I'm going fast, thank you. Mr. Schmidt covered
Okay.
my conversation pretty well.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Teresa Ridinger?
What's the last name?
Ridinger?
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Teresa Ridinger. The last name is spelled R-I-D-I-N-G-E-R, and I live at 18615 Northeast 24th Avenue in Citra. And I came to you today because I'm a parent of a North Marion senior, and a very proud parent because North Marion is doing some really wonderful things right now. Our programs are doing fantastic. The Cambridge program is stellar. My son he's already earned over 20 college credits, and he's on track to earn 20 more college credits before he ever graduates from high school. So thank you for what you guys do in that aspect. However, I do have a concern about the building project that's currently going on at North Marion. They're in phase 1 of the project. The cafeteria is being built. Everything's good, behind schedule, like all building projects right now, but that's fine. Everything's going well. However, phase 2 of the project seems to have some concerning things happening. I'm part of the school advisory committee, so it was shared with us what the plan is for the spaces in phase 2. And right now, the plans for the phases are no longer in sync with instructional norms that are in place. So spaces are being created in phase 2 of the build that are not usable and are not helpful for North Marion High School. For example, the existing cafeteria is slated to be converted to an auditorium with no seating. I've been to several other schools in the district. I've been to their auditoriums. They all have seating. North Marion is not slated to get any seating. In fact, the flooring is not to be replaced, and the flooring is tile. Tile in an auditorium is not a good acoustic plan. In addition, the back part of the cafeteria, which is currently where the kitchen is slated to be split between a health center or nurse's office, like we used to call it, and an ESE classroom. However, the ESE program does not reside at North Marion High School any longer. So a classroom is being created for a program that's not even there. Then they are planning to change the current multipurpose room, which is the largest space in the school currently, where they can actually gather large groups of students. It's virtually the only space that is big enough for that right now at North Marion. That is slated to be split into very small resource rooms. At one time, one-on-one instruction was an encouraged thing in education. However, my understanding is resource rooms are very rarely used now because it is not advisable to take a student out of the core curriculum class and separate them from the group. That's not the standard anymore, instructionally, from what I understand. So we're creating resource rooms that aren't usable, and we're creating an ESE classroom for a program we don't have anymore. It's not what the school wants, it's not what the students need, and it seems unfortunate that taxpayer dollars are being used to build something that the school can't even use, that is not a good use of the space. I understand that there's contracts. We all understand there's a contract with the building contractor. However, all contracts, all commercial builds have plans that change. That's norm in the commercial building industry. So it seems like we could make some changes to the build so that the construction actually fit the needs of the school and the students. But unfortunately, we're being told that can't happen. And I don't know what the red tape is, but it seems like, again, a big waste of taxpayer dollars to do a building plan that doesn't serve the school's purposes. So I would really encourage the school board, you guys are a bunch of really smart people, to get together and figure out a way to cut through the red tape and help us put something in place that will actually benefit the students and the school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Gallett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, I would like, we'll get her contact information so that we can reach her, and I would like for Ms. Dobbins to get some information about the plan for this, where it came from, and the stakeholder input, and then we will be sure to update the entire board.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Can they get us that by the next
By our work session.
session?
And if the school advisory committee is meeting on that and they're having significant concerns, that's the whole purpose of those SACs. That's what they're there for.
Indeed.
So.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
And I understand there is an upcoming meeting. I'm not sure if it didn't sound like the citizen was aware that the SAC committee will be meeting with representatives from the district to discuss what sounds to be several disconnects. So more to follow on that. Thank you, Dr. Gullett.
Madam Chair, I really concur with that because I also have trouble with the red tape and sometimes finding the phantom cause of things. So this is incredibly powerful.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Board Member Browning. Do we have any more speakers? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. May I have a motion to approve consent agenda items C6.1 through C16.1, with the exception of items C6.1, C6.3, C9.1, C10.1, C12.1, C12.2, C12.6, C13.1, and C14.1 that have been pulled and placed under discussion. May I have a motion, please?
So move.
Moved by Board Member Cummings. Second. Second by Board Member Campbell. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve grant contract cost reimbursement sub-agreement with the University of South Florida Board of Trustees?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Campbell.
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair King. Mr. Browning, I understand you pulled item C6.1 and you wish to have further discussion, sir.
Yes, I did. And the key to pulling items off the consent agenda for me is to bring forwards, very similar to what was brought to us from the public forum, and that is to have a little bit more discussion on things, maybe to be able to give dignity to some enormous items. This particular one is, I would just like to have input. It seems so critical in details, like music. Early music, incredibly important. Incredibly important. It teaches children a tremendous amount, whether it's just a marching band and keeping time, that type of thing. Organization, math, structure, a lot of very important things take place. But this particular item then jumps into 2-year-olds, for example, and needy families. Now, what I want to ask is, from the board, is discussion on how we spread out on these things. When they hit the consent agenda, boom, just like that last one, it just goes through, and it's in bulk. It's 5, 10, 15, whatever number of items. And something as important as getting involved with 2-year-olds. And then a second item, and I won't go into all the details. I mean, it's incredibly thick. I finally got this all printed out, and I've been through it all. And the needy families that this is directed at, the hippie program, 2-year-olds, and how does it work? How do we put that into a consent agreement? It just begs for conversation between us. We don't talk outside of this with the Sunshine Law. So when we get here, I would just dearly love to know what Board Member Campbell has to say, or Cummings, or yourself, Madam Chair, or Ms. King. I would like, as a principle, I would like to see dialogue on this. Do we even understand it? It is so thick and comprehensive, and I can call the individual and I can dig through it with them. However, it doesn't get to the school board. It may satisfy me, or I can make my complaints, and I call that like spilling gravel in a driveway. It just doesn't get you very far. It in terms of understanding. So for the dignity, I'm very positive on some of it. Some of it is a disaster that we would go when we're having trouble with a core responsibility of K through 12. We're having a problem getting that done. And we're talking about 2-year-olds. And how do we go into these families, expanding out to go into families with 2-year-olds? I mean, it just makes no sense to me. And if it doesn't make sense, I just have to bring it up. And I just like to say, I'd like to query the group here and just see, is there something I'm missing here, or does this make sense to you all?
Thank you, Board Member Browning. I'll start with just a brief point, and then any other board member, of course, can weigh in. The consent agenda items are presented to us more than 7 days in advance, and I would like to hope that each one of us has done our own due diligence and read through each contract that is our responsibility as individual elected board members. And then if we have concerns about parts of any item or all of an item, to go to the source that is bringing it forward, known as a business owner, and get their input, get their background, get their depth. I feel for you, sir, because to jump into a position like this with so much going on is a huge opportunity for learning, and I commend you for your due diligence. And as you said yourself, I'm willing to learn, and I want to know more. So thank you for being willing to do that. moving forward, I think it's also very important that if there are concerns, that we do our due diligence and then pull an item sooner than 2 hours before a meeting. That creates a tremendous burden on staff, and it makes it look to the public like maybe we're just being arbitrary, and we've worked too hard to build a different reputation. So I'm not dissuading you from pulling items, but what I am respectfully asking you to do is, if you're going to, please do it after all of your due diligence, but before 2 hours before the meeting. And I know that would be appreciated by everyone. I will say personally that I have looked through each item that you have pulled, and I would have pulled it myself if I wasn't comfortable with it, like I did the last meeting. Because there are things that we batch consent agenda items because this is a business meeting. And when we have our work sessions, we've had work sessions as long as 7 hours, where we have gone through the meat and potatoes of every single thing that's been brought forward to us. So in lieu of pulling items at the last minute for discussion and making everybody punt and run and scramble, I would be open to discussion of exploring whether or not our work sessions need to be shorter and our board meetings need to be longer. I don't care where things are brought forward that any board member has a concern about, but we just want to do it in a way that facilitates moving our business forward. So that's what I have to say on the topic. I welcome input from other board members.
Madam Chair, if I may, to this specific point of this agreement, which is a grant through the University of South Florida, this, if you notice in the board docs, it does show that prior boards have approved this in both 2019 and 2020. So this has been an agreement we've had with them for some time. So this isn't a first time for this particular board and this particular item. I believe that this is through the University of South Florida because academic research does show that students have a much better opportunity if they are reached much earlier. And contrary to how your education and upbringing may have been in the home, very much so, that hasn't been the way many of our kindergartners actually are having that success. And there's actually a program in town called Success by Six, because the purpose of, we have so many children in various parts of our community that enter kindergarten without knowing the basics, numbers, letters, colors, how to stand in a line, lots of things like that that we all learned at different ages. And so that sets kindergarten classrooms back whenever we have children entering that are very prepared and other children that are not prepared at all. So what a program like this does is it actually helps educate parents of preschoolers who don't really have the skill set to understand how to help their preschoolers be ready for school when that happens. And so it's kind of, I hate to say it's generational, but there have been a couple of generations that actually are having struggles with having preschoolers ready for kindergarten, and that's why an institution like University of South Florida has identified that there's a need for a grant into school districts so we can provide this program to help parents, specifically in certain demographics. The whole application is there to show how parents can apply for the program, but specifically speaking to this, I believe that's what this is for, and ultimately it does impact our kindergartners because it does help all of our kindergartners to be prepared for school by the time they get here at that grade.
Thank you, Board Member Campbell. Is there any other discussion from the board? And also a reminder, too, that from the state and the federal level, it's going to come to a point very soon where it won't be called K-12 education anymore. It'll be called pre-K through 12 education. And regardless of our personal feelings about that, the fact of the matter is that at the end of the line, our teachers are held accountable for every single student, their learning, their test scores, and I think I reiterated this the other night. You know, parent Jones' child comes at 5 years old, they know all their colors, they know how to follow directions, they know how to walk in a line, they're emerging readers, and then you have Mrs. Sullivan, Mr. Sullivan's kid that has never had that benefit. Well, the state doesn't look at that as individuals, they look at it as what are their test scores, and the teachers held accountable for those, including whether or not they earn a highly effective or effective rating. So it only seems fair to help level the playing field and get the kids that need it the help that they really deserve to become a functional contributing citizen on the backside. I think that Billy Woods' house is a lot more expensive than this schoolhouse, so I'd rather do it on the front end than on the back end. If there's
Madam Chair, this item that we're discussing is in reference to HIPPY, but it's actually an approval of a grant for a cost reimbursement. That's what it's about. We're not talking about the curriculum of HIPPY. We're not talking about any of those things. This is simply a grant contract cost reimbursement sub-agreement with the University of Florida. This is talking about the staffing of the HIPPY program. So I think this item is very explanatory right there in the top part of this. And it tells what the dollar amount is, and it tells what it's for. And this is budgeted. It's been budgeted before, and it has been approved many times before. So I'm not sure what Board Member Browning wants us to discuss on this, because it's apparent. It's right there in front of us.
Thank you, Board Member Cummings. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I can answer that. So now this is exactly what I'm looking for as a board member, is this discussion. I mean, it's incredibly important that we get this for our stakeholders out, 350,000 stakeholders out there. It's incredibly important that we get it. Now, I didn't get until late last night the items that were put into the consensus because they were judged to not need they did not need discussion. So that's when I got it. Just basically, I could not find the items that were going to be in consensus.
Are you saying that you did not receive the
No. Let me. I did not get the items that would be put into bulk. I just call it bulk. Like, let's just say 20 items that are going into bulk because of a judgment that they don't need discussion. And many of these items, I've been working all week with many questions and having discussions and enlightenment, that type of thing. So that's when I find, oh no, that's from number 6 through number, I think, 16 is consent. Boom, zoom, shoot right on through. Now, the C-SPAN people that are watching would not have the benefit of this discussion. I mean, it's very enlightening. It is to me, being on the board, to know what you think about it and to know what Allison thinks about it and Mr. Cummings. So that's incredibly important. The idea of neediness, I despise the idea of the state getting into the bank account of families. I despise that. So the idea of needy and then 2-year-olds, and then we have another one here that's 3-year-olds, whether or not it's becoming, say, Facebook relevant, it may be becoming the thing to go during the previous meeting we had, the workshop, the idea, the enlightenment that a lot of people are actually, this is daycare, because a lot of people have to go out, women, mothers, have to go out and get a job. Or for whatever reason, we have become the daycare people, or these programs are kind of morphing in to our curriculum. So I'm not in favor of that. Just, regardless of who is, I'm not. And I sit on the board, so I'm voicing that. And I need the discussion, and I like to have the discussion come back. And I realize that it hasn't been the practice, but I'm here just to explain what I think would be prudent for this board is to discuss some of these things so folks would know what we're talking about. It would just really make sense to me. So that's where I stand on it.
Thank you, sir. So I feel like to provide a synopsis for everyone that's been listening, it sounds to me like you have pulled this item because you oppose it. Is that correct?
No, I do not necessarily oppose it. I want discussion. Now, that's my point, is I love the music part. I think it's tremendous. It's helpful at an early age. It's one of the things that you could put into early age. I despise the needy part of the thing, of the program. I don't like people being singled out. They don't even know they're needy. They may be the greatest families that we have, but their bank account might be low. Okay, I don't like them being pulled into a program, and anybody that names something a hippie program, you had to have come back to the U.S. in the 60s when all the hippies were popping out. I don't know, maybe that's cute for them. I don't know, but how they would come up with the hippie program. I thought it needed discussion, Chair Thrower.
Mr. Chair, the hippie is right there. It's right there in front of us. HIPPY stands for the Home Instruction for Parents of Preschool Youngster HIPPY program.
Right.
And that's how that came.
No, I know how they came up. I got that. But the expansion of our curriculum into the home of needy people, like, wow, how did we get there? And does that not merit some discussion?
Chair, this item does not talk about what Board Member Brown is asking us to talk about. This item specifically talks about a cost reimbursement sub-agreement. Board Member Brown, with all respect, this has nothing to do with the curriculum of that program or who's even entitled to be in that program. This simply talks about a reimbursement to them for staffing. That's all this talks about. If I'm reading it wrong, y'all tell me I'm reading it wrong, but it's right in front of us. That's what it talks about.
So you're not reading it wrong. It's enormous. It's all of this and this, and I've got it in two parts. This is enormous. It's a huge contract, enormous. And I'm a businessman. I don't like an enormous contract. Look at this, page after page after page after page, that needs consideration. Somebody needs to understand why we're expanding down into designating people as in poverty, needy, and 2-year-olds. You know, I rest my case. That's a lot of discussion, and it's a lot more discussion than it would have had it gone in through the bulk process of approval.
So it sounds to me like it's not the actual item per se that you are against. It sounds to me more like you're lamenting the need that we're seeing for agreements like this, no matter where the money is coming from. And I know we have several other items that you would like to discuss. And so if there isn't any further discussion, shall we go ahead and vote?
That's fine, but the need for discussion, number one. So I am in favor of parts of this. I am very against parts of this. So extremely against the 2-year-old part. I'm just extremely against it. I'm also extremely against the designating needy families and going into the home. I think it's way beyond our scope. So I'm stating that, and I love the discussion. So,
Madam Chair,
yes,
we do also acknowledge that for this contract to be coming before the board, that it has been vetted through our legal department, and our attorney has went through this contract extensively in his department, and therefore they made the recommendation for approval of it, meaning it has been into legal form and it does not get us into any trouble legally. Am I correct, Attorney Powers?
That's correct. As to any policy considerations, that of course is within the board's purview. but legally the contract's been reviewed, as all of them are, to ensure that there are no indemnity or insurance provisions that are in conflict with either statutory requirements or simply a bad idea. We spend a lot of time also just generally negotiating different aspects of the terms of service to make sure they're in keeping with current board policy, as well as Florida statute, and in some cases with grants, federal statutes as well. So you can be assured that if a contract comes to you, it's been reviewed by me for legality, and then as to whether or not it's a good idea, and that's the program you wish to use, of course, that's within the board's purview to decide.
Thank you, Attorney Powers, for that explanation. And, you know, it can be legal, but it can still be not palatable to any of us as board members, and that's what pulling an item for discussion is for. And so let's go ahead and vote, and we shall move on. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries 4-1. Thank you for that discussion. Okay, moving on to item C6.3. May I have a motion to approve scheduled public hearing to be held November 9th, 2021 to adopt the 2021-2022 student progression plan?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Campbell.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair King. Mr. Browning, I understand you pulled item C6.3 and you wish to have further discussion.
Yes. Madam Chair, thank you. Yes, I would like to just bring forward the idea that this is an incredibly positive, that this has incredibly positive aspects to it that I think does warrant discussion. And this particular item, it's this BEST program, which is an acronym, and the crux of it is that there's a change has been made through the governor's recommendation and others, I'm sure, the Department of Education, and the crux of this is that it's the principal. If a student is not doing well enough to progress, but the principal, everybody's done their best job, and the principal decides that, or is willing to advocate moving on a progression to the next grade. The parents are willing to do that, to say this student should really go on, all things considered. And I'm assuming the student is also consulted on this, that they want to move on. I think that it's incredibly positive that we're not going to hold them back beyond the wisdom of the people that were involved. So that's why I pulled it. I just thought that it was incredibly important that we show to the citizens of Marion County that very positive, deep thinking and meaningful thinking in the life of a child is taking place. And it's coming from all the way in Tallahassee, all the way down through our district. So that is the reason that I wanted to, you know, if anybody else has any thoughts on it, wonderful. I really welcome them, because this is a critically important to me that we make this kind of progress. Often we're criticized for things, but this is enormous because it goes right to the student. And maybe one of the brightest, I brought up in the meeting that one of the keys to Einstein was that he flunked the second grade. And so it's wonderful that we have this level of just beautiful progress in updating our policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're always grateful to our hardworking staff for everything that they do on behalf of kids. That's why we're here. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve memorandum of agreement with United Way of Marion County and Heart of Florida Youth Center Incorporated?
Health Center.
Did I say Heart?
You said Heart of Florida Youth Center, I think.
Oh, yes, that's what I'm used to working with. My apologies.
Heart of Florida Health Center.
Heart of Florida Health Center.
Very different.
Serving youth.
Yes.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Campbell.
Second.
Second by Board Member Cummings. Mr. Browning, I understand you pulled item C 9.1 and you wish to have further discussion, sir.
Yes, you're correct. This puts in place, or keeps in place, a community partnership health facility. My concern is, do we need a health facility? And who all is going to be in this? What number of, is it for all the students? Is it for some of the students? The idea of having a health care branch, to me, seems as though it goes beyond, and I really need discussion on this to let me know what you all think. I would like to be enlightened on the idea of moving into health care facility in our curriculum program.
Is there any?
Madam Chair, if I may. I, Board Member Browning, serve on the United Way Education Vision Council. And the Education Vision Council through the United Way actually is the first organization or entity that brought forth the concept of a community partnership school. This is a successful model in Orlando with the University of Central Florida and some others, specifically in various parts of communities where the access to certain things is limited. And whenever it was chosen to put a community partnership school at College Park Elementary, it was multi-pronged. One of the initiatives is health-related needs. I can tell you, if you haven't had the opportunity to visit the community partnership school, you could go and see the closet of things that they have for children who are in need. They receive shoes and lots of different things for children who are in need, who frankly do need pairs of shoes from time to time, that they're wearing shoes that they've outgrown and so forth. As far as adding this healthcare initiative with the Heart of Florida Health Center as the community, and the federally qualified healthcare facility in our community. I can't remember exactly what that is. I'm sorry, Jamie Ulmer, I messed that up. But he's the CEO of Heart of Florida. But I know that they recently held a dental clinic there for as many families as who wanted to come, and all of their appointments were taken. Dental care is one of those things, as you may be aware, is certainly detrimental to health and overall health. And some of our students and their families don't have access to dental care. And that's just one of the myriad of things that Heart of Florida Health Center is able to provide to those families there on that campus. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe 40% of the population there is Hispanic, and they live right there within that community, very, very close, even within walking distance, some of them. And so it makes it an opportunity for them to be able to receive care right there after hours on the campus of the school, because there isn't another facility close by that they can receive those kinds of medical services. So the whole concept of a community partnership school isn't just that they're receiving services during the school day, it's that they actually can receive them on the weekends and after hours as well. And we'll be happy to elaborate more. I know Dr. Gullett has lots of information about community partnership schools, and Karen Reed, the director there, I'm sure would be happy to give you a tour as well.
Wow. Wow, Madam
Seeing
Chair.
is believing.
Yeah, well, and now, that is exactly the discussion that I'm looking for. That is incredible. And that is of such high value that your participation with those comments, that is worth the price of admission right there. And that to go into a non-discussed bulk agenda, I think is a travesty. That sounds tremendous. And we can dig, now we know more, we can dig deeper, and I can't speak to you on things, especially when we're going to vote on them, until I get here. And so that's incredibly important. Anyone else like to participate?
I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss because that information is available to get from any of our staff members before this meeting. And I think when we're taking the time out to go through each item like this, just to get some information that we all should know or can know, that's kind of circumventing or taking up needless time that we should be doing, moving this on. I get it, Mr. Brown, I understand you're new to the board, but that information that Board Member Campbell gave you is available, is readily available. And that wasn't a discussion, that was just her telling you the same thing that any of our staff members could have given.
And I appreciate that, sir. I could get it that way, I can get it this way. I prefer to get it this way in an open meeting because it's from another board member. I think that it's critically important that the community hear from you and those comments. I think it's important. We're here for a purpose. We're a board, and I think it's incredibly important. And I don't mean to try your patience. I'm just saying that if we're here and it's something that is that important, perhaps the other members around Marion County, the other citizens, would not know the path that you just laid out of how to get to that information. They may not know how to get to that information. They may not have access to that information. I don't know if they do or not. But I do know they know it now and they'll know it for a long time with our C-SPAN program. So, you know, that's my perspective, and I may be new here, but, you know, if we check birth certificates, I'm not new on the planet. Okay. And I've been around a long time, and I've been on a lot of boards. And the more you discuss, the more you bring out, the more fair you are to the owners, that is the shareholders, the better you're going to be. So I apologize for trying your patience, but this is more important than your patience, let's just say.
You're not trying my patience.
Thank you.
You're just trying the process.
Right.
You're not trying my patience, sir.
And I think that it's something for each board member to keep in mind, that the reason why we were elected was to do the work. And when we are faced with a plethora of agenda items, anyone that's never served on the Marion County School Board probably doesn't have the clearest idea of how much work it actually is. You know, we have over a $600 million budget, which still astonishes me at times. And it is incumbent upon us, each of us as individuals, in my view, to do our due diligence ahead of time and get answers to our questions from the experts in the field that have the knowledge. And then if any of us, and this isn't directed to you, it's a general comment to the board, then if any of us, after doing our work that we're being paid to do, have more questions or are uncomfortable, then by all means, pull the item. But there's background that needs to be gathered from each of us. It is not any board member's responsibility to educate any other board member on anything. You know, we are individuals, and we go to the source to get information, and then if we are uncomfortable with what we're hearing, we pull it, we bring it to the open, and we move on. So I don't think there's any disagreement about the importance of being knowledgeable and bringing forth information and being transparent. But I am uncomfortable with hearing that there was information that you should have had a full week ahead of time that I hear you say that you only got last night. I don't want to put you on the spot, Ms. Martinez-Lopez, but if you would just share, for the good of the conversation, when are all board members be given this information that's going to be on the agenda, consent or otherwise?
It is published 1 week prior to the board meeting.
1 week prior.
Notification is sent out, notifying that the board meeting is ready to be reviewed.
And that there is usually a lot of items. I mean, when you're running an organization of 43,000 students, 7,000 employees, at any given day, we have hundreds of competing items and contracts. So it is a lot. But again, I would encourage you, sir, to please visit the schools that are in question, speak with the staff members. That's what they're there for and getting paid to do. And they are the experts. And then if you still have more questions, bring it forward at a board meeting, by all means. But this is background that we all should be coming to the table prepared with. And we, as chair, in the limits of sunshine, I am happy to make sure that the connections are made so that you can continue to do that, because it's already very clear to me that you are going to be a board member that is incredibly hands-on, and that fits with all the rest of us. We didn't learn this by not talking to staff and waiting till a board meeting. So I would really encourage you to at least think about that.
And I appreciate that, Madam Chair. I will say that, yes, they've been out. The agenda has been out. The items that you pulled, Madam, you pulled to put in that didn't need further discussion, that's your call, not my call. Right. And when they're in that group, they will be brought forward for discussion. This is not I'm not looking for a new bestie, a new good friend. I'm just pulling things up that I think that I have been made aware are on a consent agenda, which means they are not going to be discussed. And at that point, of my knowing that, I say pull them because I want them discussed at the board level for the reasons that I've indicated. It's that simple. Nothing beyond that. So I am prepared. I am bringing forth these items because I think they have merit being brought onto the floor.
Yes, I don't disagree, and every item has merit, but that does not remove us from the responsibility of coming into meetings, having done our background and having done our due diligence, and then giving a synopsis of why you support, or any of us support or oppose a consent agenda item. If it's pulled, that means that you have questions, and that's what we're here for. Okay, is there any further discussion?
Madam, if I may.
We're going to move on, sir. Is there any further discussion?
Point of order, Madam.
Okay. Actually, he just beat you to it. Board Member Cummings has called the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for the spirited discussion. Okay, moving on. May I have a motion to approve monthly financial report, July 2021?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Campbell. Second by Vice Chair King. Board Member Browning, I understand you pulled item C10.1 to have further discussion, sir.
Yes, I have. The reason I pulled this, there were quite a number. There's quite a number that I did not pull. I pulled one so that I wanted to be sure from a factual point of view that the funding, because this is budgetary, is Ms. Boston Ellis with us this evening? Yes.
Yes.
I would like to ask where within these items 10.1.C10.1 through 11.9, or it goes on. The funding for that was brought up, the funding that was brought up with our proposed building, option 1, option 2, option 3, and I would like to know if these reports include the concept that was brought forward of moving funds into academic from administrative and then moving them back to be using them in administrative. That's who I needed. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Gallett, did you have something?
Madam Chair, I just want to make sure, since Ms. Boston Ellis, I think I heard her coming down the hall when you were speaking, Board Member Browning, so
yes,
you could repeat.
I will repeat. I'd be glad to. Yes, the reason I pulled these, and it's quite a number for discussion, is to be sure that from a financial point of view, in terms of funding this new program that we have that's been on our plate for, say, a month, whatever it is, of moving, and I'm paraphrasing your thoughts, your comments, but moving over to academic to borrow funds that we can't borrow in administrative, getting them approved, then not spending them in academic and bringing them over and spending them in administrative. Now, is that included in this? Because it's pretty dense, it's pretty heavy. This is like going through the books. Are we approving that particular move, or is that still on the table or not on the table? I just don't want to approve that if in fact that's still, if that's a part of this.
No, sir. If you are referring to the Florida statute that says that capital outlay, or we can use capital outlay for buildings, for leasing, and other items that are prescribed by law, what we brought to you previously was an idea of being able to borrow money, but the only way we could borrow money is it has to be tied to an educational item, such as a school and the items that are associated with that school. And what we had presented to you was the idea of bringing on HVAC projects that were in the 5-year plan and borrowing the money to go ahead and do those projects. And by borrowing money, we are within the law to do that, as long as it's for educational facilities. That is not in that report. It has not been approved by you as a board, but it is our desire to do that in order to not only expedite the HVAC projects, but also to accommodate any other building that the board desires for us to handle. So we are within the law. It sounds like you're saying different.
Right. I am troubled with the what would you call it? Moving to an account that is academic, where we can borrow, to build in, and I understand that the thing we're talking about building is in administrative, and we can't borrow in that arena.
Correct, but we can certainly borrow for educational purposes.
Right. So if we borrow for, is that, it just sort of, now you see it, now you don't, for me. It's the way, that's the way it appears to me that what the law is saying we cannot do. By going over here and doing it in academic and then not spending it there, we can spend it here. Is that, do I have it right or no? Is that not
I don't
correct?
think you understand the law, and forgive me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but what we are doing is saying we have a 5-year plan for capital outlay. Some of those items are what they call their educational facilities, schools, things that support the schools, like transportation. But then there are also auxiliary items. That would be building a new school board office. That would be building something where our staff is versus where students are. What the law says is we can use the 1.5 mil, which is capital dollars. We can use those to do both educational as well as ancillary facilities. Whenever we want to borrow money, we can only borrow funds for educational purposes. So are you following me with that?
I'm with you.
So,
I'm with you. So we're over it, and we can't do it in administrative, but we can do it in educational.
right. So
we're going to borrow it over there.
So we can borrow funds for educational purposes, which would be those things like HVAC, electrical, roofs, those things that will extend the life of a building. So if the board so chooses to borrow money to do those things, that takes them out of the 5-year plan. So that gives us an opportunity to use those funds that are in the 1.5 mil for things that are auxiliary, i.e. a district building. So we're not doing anything illegal. I would never be a part of something that was illegal.
Right. But it's confusing. It's a jump across purpose. And so I like it to be, for my part, I like it to be clear and
Yes, sir.
understandable. And I'd like discussion on it. Does it make sense? Does it make sense to the board? And is it in this? This is my
No, sir,
concern.
it is.
I'm in favor of moving these through, and I've left them all in the consent. Many of them did get approved. I pulled out one just so we could have this discussion, because I thought the discussion merited, the subject merited the discussion. You've cleared up the legality. I would like to hear more about it, and I'd like to see it, clearly, and maybe we can share the concepts, because I think we just have to be way beyond reproach on moving funds here to move funds there that aren't allowed here, that are allowed there, that type of an accounting move.
But to answer your question, for the month of July, what you have before you is what is required by law. It says that every month of expenditures have to come before the board, budget and actual expenditures. So you will see these every month. The only reason that there's 2 is because of year end. Our year end closes June, so we don't really get through June until August. So by the time we get August done, you've approved the original budget. So you will start to see these every month, and it gives you the opportunity to prescribe to what the law says. The board has to approve budget and expenditures monthly.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boston-Ellis. So a motion is on the table to approve the monthly financial report for July 2021. And we had a motion and a second. We had discussion. Is there any further discussion from any other board members?
The only thing I would add, Chair, is the next time the Florida School Board Association offers the Finance Forum, it's a 2-day training that actually will help explain a whole lot about how statute is written, what we do, what we can and can't do, when we can do it, all those kinds of things. So all of our fellow board members have been a part of that, so I highly recommend it. I've actually been to 2 of those now, and in the 10, 11 months I've been a board member. It's been very, very helpful.
It's always fun to learn the school funding formula. All right.
It's complicated.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve bid number 3898 GM HVAC UVC lighting equipment? May I have a motion, please? Moved by Vice Chair King, second by Board Member Cummings. Mr. Browning, I understand you pulled item C12.1 and you wish to have further discussion, sir.
Yes. This started, some time ago, and the ultraviolet light key to this that we're talking about here, this HVAC, is incredibly important for killing mold and what have you. I just happen to be involved in this with a lot of buildings, but it only goes halfway. And I wanted to advise the board that from a point of view of this pandemic, I would like and encourage the board to direct and just be aware of what happens with this HVAC. If you haven't ever done a building or you haven't ever gotten involved in this, it may be surprising to you, but to make a long story short, when you hit live items like mold or virus or bacteria. With HVAC, it kills it for the most part. This system, what we have here, takes us, I just say halfway. It takes us, it's like 50% of where we have to go. And very likely, any of the vendors bidding on this could get involved if we just address the next step, which is to send the results of the HVAC, of the UVC out into the area of the building that the air conditioning, the air goes to. And it's a hydrogen peroxide situation. It's H2O2. It tends to knock out viruses, anything that's in there. Any kind of pollution, theoretically, it handles. So it's just something that I wanted to, if we're doing all this, it's pretty easy to add to it, whether we do it now or we do it later. I'm not against what we're doing because it's important to do at that level on the squirrel cage, on the where you're moving the air. That's really where there's a problem. But out where we breathe in closed environments, and one of the things that's held it up is CDC has gotten very, very behind the times. I was provided a report by Ms. Dobson and some of her staff, and the CDC is still recommending opening the windows, cleaning up the air conditioner, some very fundamental, like almost ancient comments, as compared to some of the more modern, like would happen in an ER or an OR or a dental office, for example. So I just bring that forward. I thought it merited discussion since we're in this pandemic situation, and likely we'll all be sensitized to the idea of being very, very careful with the air and how things move around. And then a final item on this is if that is there was, I think it was 30 pages or so of qualifications that go into, and this goes to funding this $1 million idea. I just thought it would be important to bring it forward, and that is, if you all have not gone through that huge rendition of steps and hoops that a bidder has to go through for this particular thing, or this particular project, out in the industry, we would consider hoops like that as something that just knocked out most vendors. They just would not participate. It was just beyond the pale. So you wouldn't get involved. Well, then you've just eliminated most of your competition. It's been my experience over the years that, and I did a lot of contracts with counties and governmental agencies, that often so many vendors would be knocked out that those that did bid would know that they could be at list plus, and I mean way beyond. So I'm saying that if we really need to have all those steps in there, okay, we just do, and we'll just pay through the nose for it. Because once you know, see if it's on a scale of 10, if you could just in general go out in the private market and for 6, get all of the air conditioning, and then there's an additional 4 steps that are added on by all these hoops and all this extra. It's just as a businessman, I'm saying we really need to look at this. When I read through it, it was beyond belief the steps that are involved. And if you haven't looked at them, just look at them and say, would you bid on the thing?
Goodness, I hope we've all looked at them. They're on the agenda to be approved tonight.
But you're not a vendor. So if you,
But
you
I
wouldn't
know
go,
what a tab sheet is.
you know, so I'm just saying, if we could take a look at those and maybe pull out anything that isn't absolutely for sure germane. I mean, we were all the way to the point of, have you dealt with somebody in Syria? Have you been involved in anybody in your company with Iran? And there were just steps that were just beyond belief. So that's why I brought it forward.
I appreciate that. Board Member Browning, have you had conversation with Attorney Powers regarding all of the legalese that goes on to these bids? Because it is a huge eye-opener.
I have regular conversations. Yes, ma'am. I have regular conversations, and it's my experience that government can add on so many protective layers. We could probably make it a 6-inch book. Is that not the case?
That's fair, and a number of the things that you're bringing up are there in our vendor application process, not because there's much that we can do about them as the Marion County Public Schools, but because, for example, it's required that we have the signature on the vendor application of the person who is registered as the business owner in the Secretary of State, not just some random person in the organization. There are an entire chapter of statutes that regulate what we have to have in order to do business with a vendor. So I can tell you that with the vendor applications, for example, a great number of the added things that industry is created, you are correct, are placed there by government, but it's state statute that requires us, in order to do business with some of these entities, to do some of those things. I would certainly be open and welcome. I've tried during my tenure here to make sure that we streamline the process as much as possible. And if we find things in there that are not a requirement of statute or of school board policy, that we can further streamline as well. So I'll be happy to continue having those discussions at any time.
Thank you, Attorney Powers. Is there any other discussion from any other board member? And I'd like to personally thank you, Attorney Powers, because that's something, having been in the school system since 1997, seemed to have resonated all these years, that things would get hung up in legal. And I'm like, what is this legal? You know, can we just get some things moving forward here? And it's been a source of frustration for a very long time. And once I came on the board, I began to get a better understanding of where the bottlenecks can occur, and they always seem to occur for the most important, at least to me, initiatives that have to do with direct benefit to children. You know, several come to mind. And so I really appreciate all the work that you have put in to be able to streamline as much as possible, because we do have a business to run, and there's only 180 days in the school year. I mean, we have got to be rapid, but we have to be smart, and we have to be nimble, and we need to be all of those things. And it does get frustrating sometimes when I look at this mountain of paperwork that it takes, and then I think to myself, well, okay, so we use a business in Syria, and they put something in whatever it is they're sending over to us. I mean, there's so many things that we have to be worried about these days. And it's really just too bad. And it goes down to access even to playgrounds with the Jessica Lunsford Act. And, you know, there's so many things that have changed for the worse, in my opinion. But they've changed that way for a lot of reasons. So that's all I have to say on that. Thank you again for bringing it
Madam
forward.
Chair, and I'd like to just indicate that that's exactly your comments. That's exactly why I like it to come forward and to be discussed, because this is an enormous, $1 million. Okay, so $1 million, what the lawyer just indicated was that this group is being prudent, but there are some considerations that are beyond our scope. And we can streamline. So we are conscientious, and we are open to criticism and open to misunderstanding that we just didn't do our job to overpay for something, let's just say. But yet we're struggling with issues that we're trying to cope with. And we're discussing it out at this level, so now a lot of folks know what we're doing. I think it's very germane to what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you, sir. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Remember, Browning?
I'm sorry.
Yay or nay?
Yay.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve expenditure increase request for bid number 3602 GM Towing Services? May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Campbell,
Second.
second by Vice Chair King. Mr. Browning, I understand you pulled item C 12.2 and you wish to have further discussion.
Yes, ma'am, you understand correctly. The reason that I would like to see discussion on this is it looks like an awful lot of money to me. I tried to do the math. I worked it several different ways. I've been familiar with on the Sheriff's Advisory Committee over the years. I've been involved with what it costs to tow. And I'm looking at these, and I'm just wondering if we're not like overpaying. Are we having just an enormous number of buses break down? Is that what's caused? Does anyone have a handle on that particular thing? I was unable to rectify this in terms of my $75 a tow, typically for the Sheriff's Department.
I can provide a quick bit of information that may be helpful.
Thank you, sir.
What you do see on those contracts is a large number of that has to do with towing of buses, as you indicated. And in many cases, not buses that broke down. A number of those are at auction or prior or during the scrapping process of the bus. We are literally towing bus shells or bus non-functional buses to auction sites, things like that. So there's or moving them into longer-term storage. So those are a lot of the costs. It's not necessarily functional buses that are going to be returned to service. So I don't know what the actual numbers are proportionally. I just do know that that a large chunk of the towing relates to those. When we're going to decommission a bus, that's a large portion of the towing that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Attorney Powers. And I believe this is cyclical. Several years ago, we were finally able to come up with the money to buy new buses. And through the course of, I think the oldest bus I rode over the last few years was a 1996 model. No air conditioning, but still barely chugging along. And Chico over at the main compound and his team, they do a great job of stripping the buses and cannibalizing them and taking every available bit and piece to use. And fortunately, a lot of those old buses now that have been decommissioned are ready to go to a bigger boneyard in the sky. So I get the sense from this contract that this is something that's going to be cyclical. We finally are able to get rid of these antiquated buses because we have upgraded our fleet, thankfully, to much safer buses and much more reliable. That's the gist that I got from this contract. Ms. Bostonellis, can you either confirm nor deny that?
Chair, as Ms. Bostonellis is coming, it's not only just buses, it's other vehicles that the district uses, tractors and automobiles as well. So it's not just buses.
Right, and also, just because there's that amount, doesn't mean we'll use that amount. Maybe you want to talk about that a little bit too, Ms. Boston-Ellis.
So, again, every month or every couple of months, you'll see disposition of tangible property. We do have a contract with Weeks Towing, who handles all of the towing, whether it's a bus, a vehicle, whether it's some huge piece of equipment that we no longer have use for. Those type of items are carried to Weeks auction. What happens at that point is we are responsible for towing those vehicles and those items to Weeks. Then we will receive payment for the items when they are sold. We will receive some portion of it. And what I can share with you is last year, because of all of the buses that were taken to weeks auction, we did receive revenue of about $181,000. So there is a funding source that covers, more than covers, the cost of moving these items to the auctioneer.
Thank you, Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Yes, that's incredible, and that's very important, because one of the things that was troubling me was the increase of $11,000 over the amount, and that I couldn't justify the amount. But now with this information, and I think this information to the general public is incredibly important, because otherwise it just looks like it looks inappropriate to me. The amounts. I would like to see some sort of a report generated so that it took it out of towing and put it into, breakdown, so that you could see what we're doing in terms of scrapping or something like that. It's a whole different deal, a whole different ball game in terms of understanding of where those funds are going. $37,000 goes a long way to paying a teacher or school supplies, for example. And it just drives me crazy to see every $10,000 increment go off somewhere else. So I thought it merited discussion. Thank you. That helps me a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boston-Ellis. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve utilized State of Florida Motor Vehicles Contract 2510000-19-1 to purchase 4 Chevrolet Equinox SUVs for the Safe Schools Department? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Browning, seconded by Vice Chair King. I think I heard back there. Mr. Browning, I understand you pulled item 12.6. You wish to have further discussion, sir.
Yes, I'm again, I'm $83,000. I really sweat the money. Money means a lot, and especially if you're making judgment calls on other people's money. $83,000. Who all are we buying cars for? And I'd just like to see some discussion on who else we buy, we're purchasing cars for, and if this is in the security realm, I would really like to see these look like police cars, if that's the case. If they're not, then that would be a big loss. I know the Sheriff's Department is really on top of signage and getting the image out, and really, I think, making our schools a lot more safe. If we have our crew out operating, I would like to see them in something that really spoke to, maybe a sheriff's car, or maybe their own car if they need to be incognito. I'm not micromanaging how it operates. I'm just saying that this needs a look at it. I think, what is it, 50-some cents, 58, 60 cents to use your own vehicle. Maybe that's not possible. I just think it warrants discussion. I'd like to hear what the board thinks in terms of that.
Madam Chair, Mr. McFadden is here. And as he comes up, I know that this board, we do have the designation of being a police department. However, the staff that work in safe schools are not police officers. And because of that, I don't think the cars should look like police cars, because it would send a bad message to our sheriff and our local law enforcement that we're not agreeing to, or what we said that we would do with them. We have SROs on campus, and I think these cars that are used for safe schools are for those staff members in safe schools, and Mr. McFadden can correct me if I'm wrong, to get around from school to school and not on their own cars, especially when they have to respond to different situations in a hurry.
Yes.
Yes, if you shed some light on this and how we got to needing 4 new cars, please.
Yes, ma'am. We currently, the Safe School staff, they're driving the old driver's ed cars, and the steering wheels are crumbling, they're leaking, ants are in them, and roaches are in them. They're basically on the last day. We're spending a lot of money on maintenance. So during the pandemic, we were doing a lot of checking on the students around the county, and in my particular vehicle that I have, which is a Ford SUV, Ford Explorer, I found myself going to many of these places to check on these kids, whether it was in the Highlands, Scrambletown, Big Scrub, or wherever. It was the use of my vehicle, which was the SUV, that was higher off the ground, because when you come into the rain and the soft dirt, my folks couldn't go in there with those little Ford Fusions. So I found myself traveling all around the county, checking on these kids where they should have been doing that. So the Equinoxes are a little bit higher, not some little small vehicle where we're going to be paying towing charges to tow them out of these places like the Florida Highlands.
Sugar sand.
The sugar sand. They just couldn't go to these places because of the small car and the fact that the cars are so old, thousands of miles on them, and they're leaking, and just the steering wheels are crumbling when you grab them. They're just really old vehicles.
Mr. McFadden, if I may ask you, does it help you to have incognito? Does it help you a little bit in that regard to not light up the area? And I'm asking just what's effective. I assume you have the ability to take police action.
No, sir.
Or do you not? No, you do not. Okay.
I personally do, but I choose not to do that because we leave everything up to our local sheriff,
yes,
police departments, and they take care of all of our criminal activity needs within the district. The people that hired in safe schools, they have no police actions. It's not about visibility for them. They just need to be able to respond to the different schools all across the county in the event to help out with drills, looking for our kids that may not have come back to school after the pandemic, just those type of situations. At no time are they going to be in a situation, or we put them in a situation that poses a threat or danger to them. So they would need to be into some type of marked vehicle.
And for the record, Board Member Bromley, Mr. McFadden is the only one in our district that is carry a weapon and that has arrest powers. The rest of our staff in safe school does not have arrest powers. Am I correct, Mr. McFadden?
Yes, sir. None of them have arrest powers. They're just strictly there to support our SROs in the schools when it comes to drills, obtaining reports, whatever is needed, looking for kids that may be, again, not reporting to the school, but they do not have any type of arrest powers or authority to take any action.
So they're not doing any type of surveillances or anything like of the such in the capacity that they currently are in right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there's just a lot to it, and I don't want to get into all of that because these are just cars, but if the 58 cents or the 60 cents, whatever it is, works, and you would know, and that's what I'm looking for. I just, again, every $10,000 matters to me, and the best way to get this transportation job done is the way I'd like to see it done. If it's buy 4 cars and provide 4 cars to 4 employees, I can go there, but it merits discussion for me, so that I know I'm doing the right thing, spending the money for this.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, with me, I live on the south end of the county, and if something happens, say after hours on the weekend, I don't necessarily drive all the way into the school district to grab the Ford Explorer. I may drive my personal vehicle to stand where it's there. I may drive it to an alarm that goes off at College Park. So I don't charge the district, but if I was to charge the district, whatever it is, 50 cents per mile or whatever, that adds up pretty quick, and I don't know how much it will cost, but I don't want to push that off to the district. It's just something, it's just what we do.
Well, it'd be appropriate, but you're comfortable with the use of the 4 cars as compared to the way we're doing it now?
Yes, I'm comfortable with them having the vehicles to be used to go to all of our schools and district offices around this district. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may add, to Board Member Browning's questions, which is a really good one to have a conversation about White Fleet. So one of the requests I made of Ms. Boston Ellis last year was to do an analysis of our White Fleet, which are all of our vehicles, to determine the best use of our funds. So in some cases, it is more economical to pay per mile, and in some cases, it's more economical to the district to take a look at a car. So that is something that her team does, so I wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you. Yes, that's real important.
Thank you, Ms. McFadden. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve construction of a security fencing system at Bellevue Santos Elementary School, project number 21-116?
So move.
Moved by Board Member Cummings, seconded by Vice Chair King. Mr. Browning, I understand you pulled item C13.1, and you wish to have further discussion, sir.
Yes, I do. The key to this is, I think, I call it runaway fencing. And fencing, strategically used, can be a very positive thing. I recently was out at Lake Weir High, and there was some incredibly effective strategic fencing, architectural fencing, that I think goes a long way toward achieving security, which I think is sort of the genesis of this extra fencing that's come up in the last since that shooting in South Florida. I'd like to see this discussed because we do a disservice to our children if we put them in almost what looks like a detention situation, like juvenile detention facility. We don't go that far, and it doesn't look that bad, but it's close. And the front door's open, and again, I go to the money. So we're looking at $184,000 because something happened in another area, and that has been very clearly vetted. Now, the state is requiring. If the state's requiring something that we don't think is prudent on our end, we have all sorts of mechanisms to go up there and just talk to the legislature, talk to the governor, talk to all the people that could be enlightened with our thoughts. So I'm this $184,000 and then leave the front door open is, like, to me, could be, that could be spread out to teachers, for example, to HVAC, to building, to inspecting the roof, to some of these other things that we spend money on. And the idea that we have to do a knee-jerk reaction at the state level, if in fact that's there, I'll push on them when I'm up there. I remember earlier, you all probably do, the Austin shooting from the University of Texas. We didn't, I know, wherever you went to school, it didn't get surrounded by fences. It just didn't, even though it was a very regrettable situation. That Mandalay Bay shooting, they have not, a lot of people were killed, but they have not gone out and put fencing around and then leave the front door open. So those are the things. This $184,000 just makes me cringe that we would take that level of treasure and just to generically put up fence. If it's a specific situation, I don't have a problem with it. But the generic idea of putting, spending that level of money, $184,000, an enormous amount of money. That's. I was looking for input.
Madam Chair. Oh.
Well, there.
Campbell.
Input. Wonderful.
Chair, this one.
I said Board Member Campbell.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to say what I'm going to say.
Thank you. So, I have 2 points on this one. So the first point is the budget source. And so if we look at this particular item, the budget source is actually an educational facilities security grant. Right. So the only thing we could use this $184,000 for is educational facilities security, because that's what the grant is for, so we couldn't reallocate those dollars to something else.
Like teacher raises.
Absolutely.
As much as we'd love to.
Specifically to speak about Bellevue Santos. So I distinctly recall going out to that campus, and this is in District 2. So Board Member Browning, I hope that you've been there as well, and if you haven't, I'm sure they would welcome you to that campus at any time. But apart from preventing a school shooter, because that's what you mentioned, that particular campus is our only school that is on a major highway on 441. It definitely has the potential to have wanderers walking onto their campus very, very easily. There's a gas station right across the street. People walk up and down 441 on a regular basis. That particular school and this particular fence is one I'm very excited about, because I do believe that it's going to protect those students in a lot of different ways. And again, this is the only school that we have that is on that type of major highway. I'm
sorry, Board Member Campbell,
Yes.
are you speaking of Bellevue Santos or Stanton Weirsdale?
Bellevue Santos.
Okay, I thought I heard you say Stanton Weirsdale, and then I lost you completely.
No,
Okay.
Bellevue Santos. Bellevue Santos.
Okay.
That's what this
Yes,
for. This
right on
for.
441.
It's on 441. And again, I know when I've spoken with the principal out there, there's just potential for opportunities.
For a second.
Absolutely.
I'm uncomfortable announcing our weaknesses to our community.
Okay.
So I'm a little uncomfortable with that, because now they're exposed. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my opinion on that.
Thank you. Point taken.
And that is something for us to sadly always be mindful of. We certainly don't want to give up what we're doing or still need to do as far as school security is concerned. And maybe the other places that were mentioned, Mandalay and a couple of the others that haven't been fenced, is because, let's face it, when children are massacred, it doesn't play very well. I couldn't live with myself if we weren't using the money as allocated to provide for that level of safety. And this is, again, I will make this point, where it is very important for each and every board member, before we bring things like this out into the open, to make sure that we're very clear in understanding that money for this cannot be used for anything else. Because then, if we're really trying to educate the public and bring them into the conversation, then the next thing we hear is, well, $184,000, that'd pay a lot of teachers and a lot of teachers' aides and blah, 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 blah. Well, we can't use it for that. And anyone that reviewed the agenda and looked to the bottom would know that. So now we've talked about security situations that we probably should not have mentioned, and we're confusing the public a little bit in saying that funds can be used for something that they can't be used for. So let's please, if we're going to go to this depth, let's make sure that we have all our ducks in a row before we bring it up. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair. Speaking of ducks in a row,
oh, that's right. You were after Board Member Campbell. I'm so sorry.
Please.
Go ahead, sir.
I call for question.
Okay. Board Member Cummings has called the question, so we're going to go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign.
No.
Okay. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. Okay. May I have a motion to approve addendum agreement, fresh fruit and vegetable program? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Campbell, seconded by Board Member Cummings. Mr. Browning, I understand you pulled item C14.1. You wish to have further discussion, sir?
Yes, I do. I believe that fresh fruits and vegetables in our schools are a complete home run. I think that it warrants discussion so that people understand the beauty of this level of nutrition going to students. If we're going to get involved at all in food and food courts and cafeterias, this is a complete home run. It's incredibly positive, healthy, and appropriate in any respect that I can see. And so I would like to see it brought forward. The reason I brought it forward was that folks would know how positive this particular item is, and I would hate to see it be buried in a bulk vote. And that was the reason I brought it forward. If anybody can enlighten the board on some of the benefits of this type program, I would sure like to hear it.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
Basically what it is students will be introduced to fruits and vegetables that may not be your typical, something that they may not always have. I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head, radishes or something. Sure. And it gives them a chance to taste it and exposure to it, and that's what it is. And as a classroom teacher, it's sometimes entertaining and fun when you see students experiment and try different foods, and sometimes they like it and sometimes they don't. And so I agree, it is a good program, and that's what I
appreciate that. That's exactly what the level of discussion that I'm looking for personally. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Moving on to donations, always a fun part of the meeting. May I have a motion to approve the following cash or tangible donations that have a total value of $70,619.23. $2,500 to Bellevue Santos Elementary School from their business partner, Express Care of Bellevue, LLC, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $2,500 to Dr. N.H. Jones Elementary School from their business partner, Ocala Fiber Optic Network, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $2,500 to Denellen Elementary School from their business partner, Ocala Fiber Network, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. Backpacks and school supplies valued at $1,068.75 to Denellen Elementary School from Kingdom of the Sun Chapter, Military Officers Association of America. PPE and sanitizing supplies valued at $2,938.98 to Denellen Elementary School from Lowe's Company Incorporated. An AED unit and accessories valued at $1,813 to Denellen Elementary School from Rescue One. $2,500 to 8th Street Elementary School from their business partner, Glover Law Firm, PLLC, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $2,500 to Fessenden Elementary School from their business partner, Allstate Construction Incorporated, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $2,500 to Fort King Middle School from their business partner, Pediatric Associates of Ocala, Professional Associates, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $2,500 to Fort McCoy School from their business partner, Phoenix Wood Products, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $1,000 to Fort McCoy School from Marion Cultural Alliance. $2,500 to Lake Weir Middle School from their business partner, Ocala Fiber Network, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $1,000 to Liberty Middle School from an anonymous donor. $2,500 to Marion Oaks Elementary School from their business partner, Ocala Fiber Network, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $2,500 to North Marion Middle School from their business partner, Ocala Fiber Network, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. Backpacks and school supplies valued at $1,068.75 to Romeo Elementary School from Kingdom of the Sun Chapter, Military Officers Association of America. $10,000 to Silver River Museum from Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $2,500 to South Ocala Elementary School from their business partner, Neighborhood Storage Center Company, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $2,500 to Stanton Weirsdale Elementary School from their business partner, Osley Construction, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. $2,500 to Sunrise Elementary School from their business partner, Ocala Fiber Network, via the Public Education Foundation of Marion County. 1,620 bottles of hand sanitizer valued at $7,111 to Sunrise Elementary School from CVS Caremark Distribution Center. 70 backpacks and supplies valued at $1,050 to Sunrise Elementary School from Hale Products Incorporated. backpacks and school supplies valued at $1,068.75 to Sunrise Elementary School from Kingdom of the Sun Chapter, Military Officers Association of America. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Campbell.
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Cummings. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Board Member Browning, would you be kind enough to give the thanks tonight to all these amazing businesses and supporters?
Well, it's wonderful to see the participation of businesses in supporting the education of our children. I've been involved with the Kiwanis. I've been involved with a number of Fort Kings Lion Club comes to mind. There's so many people that get involved and have over the years. The Gammons Charitable Trust, our superintendent just figured out where a deep space telescope was and is getting it back into play. That was the Gammons. We had Gammon scholars for years. Thank you to everyone from the bottom of our heart, or my heart, for supporting and helping with your treasure. It really means a lot to a little second grader. And as they move along, it teaches them, where resources come from and that people love them and they care a lot about them. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Board Member Browning. The next administrative briefing and work session is scheduled for November 4th, 2021 at 9 a.m. The purpose of the work session is to discuss additional review of district-wide attendance zones if needed, Howard Academy committee update, academic targeted schools quarterly update, and COVID-19 updates. And we'll now move along to committee reports, concerns, and comments. I do just have a couple of items for all of us to keep in mind. The first one is a really fun one. The Ocala Christmas Parade will be back in action this year, including Santa, Saturday, December 11th. We usually get to McPherson Complex Field about 4 o'clock, I would say, trying to wind our way through all the barriers to get there to assemble. We have been kindly invited again by the Paglia family, Florida Express Environmental. We've ridden their float for many years now. It really is a lot of fun. So I would encourage each board member, Dr. Gullett, to put that on your calendar. Attorney Powers, you're welcome to join the party. Kevin Christians is usually emceeing it. Do you know who your partner is yet this year? Cummings is volunteering.
Sure he's out.
You need to be on the float with us.
And our children can come too, right?
Sure. Okay. It's a big float. And it really is. It's a great way to kick off the holiday season. So please consider adding that to your calendar. The Paglias do want to know that we do intend to participate. I'm getting a nod from Board Member Campbell. I'm all in. Yep, get on. Let's have a great time. Okay, great. Just a reminder, our Master Board training is Monday, this coming Monday the 18th from 9 until 1. My glasses keep fogging up. Are we going to bring our own lunch? Or are we going to work straight through? Or did we think about anything like that? Maybe do what we normally do with the board meetings? We'll be meeting right in here.
We'll be meeting here at 9.
Breakfast.
We will have breakfast here, and then
Oh, that's right.
it's just a 4-hour.
That's right.
We should be
I
done.
forgot about how you usually set out that breakfast, which is so sweet and kind. Okay, great. It's important to do big work on a full stomach. Okay, and then the next thing is, this is a reminder that our ethics training is no longer a part of the Florida School Boards Association Winter Conference. You received an email about that. It is required by state statute that we get our ethics training completed by December 31st of this year, which comes up quickly, and we do renew that every year. So please add that to your to-do list. Okay, that's all I had in terms of housekeeping. Dr. Gullett, what do you have for us tonight?
Good evening again, Madam Chair, members of the board. I just want to announce that it is October is the National Principals Appreciation Month. So another opportunity to say thank you to our leaders in the field and our schools and helping to ensure that our students have everything that they need and they're excelling and thriving in a strong educational environment. I also want to announce that October 11th through the 15th, incidentally, is National School Lunch Week. So in honor of the conversation we had tonight about nutrition and healthy foods, this is an opportunity to recognize the hard work of our food service team and ensuring that our children have healthy foods and nutrition so that they can optimize their learning each day. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gullett. And Attorney Powers, anything from legal?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you and your team for everything you do. Elena?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Board Member Campbell?
Sure. So Dr. Gullett mentioned a couple of things I was going to mention, but I'll go ahead and mention a shout out
with other things.
I know, a shout out to principals. I know that they are struggling and juggling now more than they ever have before. And so all of our principals, please know how much you are appreciated and how much we value you. Everything you do to ensure that your schools are running smoothly, it's not going unnoticed. So please know how grateful we are. I also noticed that October 2nd was National Custodian Day, so I want to say thank you to all of those folks in our custodial departments and those who are also doing custodial duties, even though that's falling under the other duties as assigned, as Mr. Christian always likes to say. I also was going to mention National School Lunch Week, and actually I'm sure there are lots of other reasons that we can have gratitude and gratefulness for every employee in every department. So even if it's not your week and your designated day, please know that we value each one of you and you're all making a difference in children and helping them succeed. I also wanted to make a note that October is actually this week, right now, is the week, culmination of the attendance counts. So we've been talking a lot about financial things through Ms. Boston Ellis, but the count that we actually use to budget is when students are in seats through the month of October through the 15th. And so the 15th is just right upon us. So parents, if you're still with us 2.5 hours in or whatever, please ensure that your students are in school and whatever we can do to help. And hopefully teachers are looking for exciting things that are going to get kids in school this week. But it really does matter because this is the week that it's going to really impact our budget for the future. So those FTE counts matter. I also wanted to mention, if there's anyone listening to this meeting that might be interested in a job or career with Marion County Public Schools, we have lots of openings. And so I was speaking with a principal today who actually has a few teacher vacancies, and because teachers are moving on to other things and not necessarily any bad reasons, but a teacher's going to now become a college professor instead of teaching and different things like that. But fortunately, we have paraprofessionals and subs that are filling in some of those spots. But Marion County Public Schools is hiring, and so bring your talents to us and truly make a difference in students' lives. Speaking of that, I also wanted to mention, I was talking to someone today who is a prominent leader in our community who made the statement, "Oh, I don't pay attention to the school board." I implore our community to change that mindset. Don't just pay attention when you think we might be doing something wrong or something against what you believe. Please pay attention all the time. We are the one elected body that makes policies to help tomorrow's citizens who are growing up today. And what we do in our schools can truly impact this community for generations. So please, as our community citizens we're here this evening, please get involved in the process because it really does matter. I also wanted to wrap up with just two other minor things, actually one minor thing. I was excited about Master Board training obviously coming up on Monday. I think that'll be great for our board. I know I really enjoyed that the last time we did it. But I also want to bring up, because I've had administrators asking me just for clarification, and I'm sure that our staff is doing a great job of clarifying, but just for the general community as well. With the current resolution that we have in place that has said that volunteers and field trips are not allowed at the elementary school level, that is because our positivity rate we have two factors that will eliminate that from the way it is right now. One is that our positivity rate of COVID-19 is below 10%, and the other is that we have to have less than 100 cases per 100,000 residents of Marion County. Unfortunately, we haven't reached that yet. So while you may be noting that our positivity rates are well below the 10%, and even our school-based rate, I think we had 44 positives, so that's like a 0.1%, something like that. So while that is terrific, we still haven't reached as a community that 100 cases per 100,000, which means we aren't at that 14-day window yet where we can start counting down. So I did verify with the health department that if our 4-day trend, which they give their numbers on Fridays, if the 4-day trends holds for the next 3 days, then we will be at less than 365 cases for 1 week, but then we'll still have yet another week that we'll have to ensure that we get to that. So just wanting to add that point of clarification, there are principals really excited to get elementary school field trips, to get reading pals, to get good news clubs, all of those things that matter in our schools, and they're ready to get them going, and we are too. I just wanted you to be aware of the way the resolution is worded and how we are kind of at a standstill right now until our community reaches that target. But I also wanted to stress two other things that I've read recently in the New York Times, and this will be the last thing on that. Because we've talked a lot about science in our decision making, so I wanted to pull in some science that I wanted to ensure we were also paying attention to. When it comes to COVID-19, there actually have been a couple of studies that have been released. Actually, I just saw today. One out of Washington and another Washington State and another out of England. And it says that our unvaccinated children have just as much risk as a vaccinated person in their 40s and 50s of being hospitalized. And that chance is actually a 0.15%. So children under 12, we all know can't be vaccinated, are also at less risk than vaccinated people in their 30s and 40s of being hospitalized. So while we made our decisions, specifically for elementary school students, that we have limited visitors and field trips for those elementary kids, what science is telling us right now, according to these two studies, is that they actually are the least at risk. The unvaccinated children are at the same amount of risk, I guess I should say, as vaccinated individuals in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So my hope is that very soon we'll be able to hop back to the way we are hoping that it can be in our schools, and we'll be able to get back to good news clubs and reading pals and volunteers in our schools that are so incredibly important, and obviously those field trips that our schools haven't been able to participate in a while. And I'll wrap it up with one final statement from Michael Osterholm, who's an infectious disease expert at the University of Minnesota. And he was quoted in the New York Times as saying, "We've ascribed far too much human authority over this virus." And those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Campbell. Board Member Cummings.
Good evening to everyone again. Very spirited meeting tonight. We covered a lot of things and went in depth on a lot of different things. I do want to, just a few things. First, I want to acknowledge that we have been from September 15th till October 15th that this is National Hispanic Heritage Month. I think we need to acknowledge that we have so many Hispanic members of our community, and we appreciate them being a part of the community and being a part of this district. There are so many great accomplishments our Hispanic community has done, not just locally but nationally and worldwide, so we must recognize and should recognize. The second thing is, last week I was away to the Florida School Board Association Leadership Board meeting training. You probably all got today a letter from Andrea Messina in reference to the National School Board Association's action. If you don't know, for the record, the National School Board Association sent a letter to President Biden in requesting federal assistance to stop threats and acts of violence against public school children, public school board members, and other public school district officials and educators. For the record, that letter was sent ill-advisedly from the National School Board leadership and did not take into consideration the wants of local state school board association. Our school board association does not agree with the letter that was sent because we feel that local control, local law enforcement can handle our issues, and there was not a need for federal troops or anything like that to be sent down. However, with saying that, we did also come to the conclusion that there are reports of people, school board members who were there at the meeting last week who detailed specific threats that they have received, which is alarming. And we do, as a Florida School Board Association, do not condone any illegal acts and do not accept those in any circumstance. So the Florida School Board's of Directors on Thursday discussed NSBA's letter and on Friday we came up with an approved letter that was sent to the National School Board Association. That letter is attached. Attorney Powers has it. I sent it to him so that it could be record for whatever people want to see. Also, there is a resolution that was attached as well, because the resolution, it details what we believe. With your permission, I just want to quickly read the resolution, Madam Chair, so that our community knows our stance as far as with the Florida School Board Association, because all 5 of us are members of the Florida School Boards Association, and these are the views that we hold.
First, go right ahead.
Florida School Board Association resolution ensuring that views are heard and exchanged in a safe environment. Whereas the Florida School Board Association is a nonpartisan body which represents 346 school board members, and whereas public education is essential to an informed citizenry, the foundation of our democratic society, and whereas public schools are the cornerstone of each community, bringing together adults and children, educators, volunteers, business leaders, community groups, and elected officials in a common enterprise. And whereas a commitment to First Amendment rights of all citizens is guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution and integral in the spirit of Florida's open meeting laws. And whereas Florida school boards both encourage and welcome parents as well as other concerned citizens to engage in lively, respectful, and civil civic discourse at school board meetings. And whereas the Florida School Board Association affirms that the safety of all school board members and citizens who attend school board meetings is of the utmost importance. And whereas the Florida School Board Association is concerned about alarming incidents and comments if they extend beyond civil civic discourse, and whereas illegal acts cannot be tolerated, and whereas the Florida School Board members maintain full confidence in and appreciate our partnership with local and state law enforcement agencies to effectively address issues of public safety if they arise. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Florida School Board Association calls upon all school districts to collaborate with their respective local law enforcement agencies to continue to provide a safe environment for all stakeholders to exchange views, thereby ensuring parents' voices are heard when it comes to decisions about their children's education and safety. This is the resolution that we, the Board of Directors for the Florida School Board Association, on last Thursday and Friday came up with. We encourage, and you stated it earlier tonight, we encourage the public to be a part of our meetings. We look forward to that. We just have a procedure of how we handle public comments. So I don't want our public to think that we're not listening to what they say. We hear everything you say, but there's a different way that we can address it without it being confrontational. And we look forward to the comments. And I think every board member here has the ability to be called or emailed at any time. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Cummings. Vice Chair King.
Yes.
I know you're back there.
I am. Neola, I know we were supposed to get some dates because we're already almost in the middle of October, so do we?
Yes, we have. I will be sending out that email tomorrow. I'm sorry, I was going to send it out yesterday. I had some other obligations. But Neola has contacted us to let us know they do have additional dates beyond what our dates were, because they were heavily front-loaded toward beginning of October. So they're going to fill in some more dates in there. So I thought rather than sending it twice with 2 different sets of dates, and we have additional dates from Neola, and I believe those came in today.
Okay.
Also, within the next few days, possibly in time for the work session, though I'm not certain of that, I will have the notebooks that I had discussed with all of the policies in them.
Or homework.
Right, so that you can, there are 6 or 8 inch binders with all of the proposed policies as they are now, that also show the current edits and what other recommended edits can be chosen, along with anything that you may, wish to discuss from there. It's not something that any of you will have to start from the ground up, but having a good, healthy background knowledge is a good thing, because when Neola comes, they will focus, they'll go through sections at a time, and they will focus on those items that the board wishes to focus on.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Christmas parade was brought up this evening. I think there's some questions. Are all the schools participating? And if so, they need to know now so they can work on transportation and stuff like that. So I think we need a...
I thought we had said it was a go unless anything.
For all the schools? Okay, so we're
Including
good.
the elementary schools that want to participate?
Right, that's what.
That would be classified as a field trip, I guess.
That's in December.
I understand, but I'm fine with it if I don't.
Dr. Gullett?
Yeah, so Madam Chair, Vice Chair King, to your point, yes. I mean, that's from the operations side, that yes, we'll move forward. However, we have been very careful to monitor the data because we, as we realized last year, we didn't want to get ahead of ourselves too quickly. So I understand there's a need for planning, but because we're waiting for that data to come through and consistent with everything else we've decided, we don't want to step forward and have something happen and then pull all that back. So we're monitoring it carefully. I fully expect we'll get an updated report, of course, on Friday. That's been confirmed by Mark Lander, the Department of Health. But then sorry?
Friday.
No, Friday.
They're going to once a week.
Right, but we will get the data, Board Member Cummings, we will get the data on Friday, correct? So we'll get the data report, which is when they do their weekly report. And if we are in within the threshold of those 2 components, then it will be 2 weeks. So we will certainly let the rest of the schools know.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I'm very comfortable with that, especially as they can access the superintendent and just stay on top of it, because it's a moving target and a moving authorization. So yes, I'm in favor as long as all the components come together. Go for it.
It is interesting too that these questions do keep coming up. We feel like when we're sitting here that we're informing the whole world and everyone should be in the know. There were 58 people watching tonight. Now a lot will go back and look, and we'll see the viewership go up. But we really want to make sure that that we're not an echo chamber. We say what we have to say here, but it needs to get out in lots of different formats. And I remind everyone in the community, you can also go to our website, and it's right there on there where it's showing the 2 categories that we have to reach as far as community spread and positivity rate to be able to, reopen completely. And volunteers, I got at least 3 emails over the weekend and messages, when can we come back? We're so ready. We really miss, being in our schools, and that couldn't be more wonderful to hear. And just making sure that the principals know and the teachers know and the community knows about our criteria, and that we're getting very close to meeting both of them. We've already met the one with the positivity rate, and now we just need the community spread rate to move into our favor. And then it has to stay stable for 2 weeks, and then, it is game on, and won't we be happy about that? And, I'll hold the rest of my comments because I wanted to make sure, Board Member Browning, if you had anything else, and then I'll wrap up before we move on.
I don't think Vice Chair King is finished.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You can't see her, so.
I know, I'm sorry.
I do have one more thing.
Okay.
This evening, and Mr. Cummings was talking about procedures and procedurals, and earlier tonight I was called out by name. And now that it's my comments time, I will be glad to express a little bit on that. And the comment was made that this gentleman had heard that I had a push for 3-year-olds to go to daycare or something to that effect. At the last meeting, the superintendent, actually there was one other meeting, the superintendent and her team had made a recommendation to use Evergreen Elementary School because we had to close that school last year because it had been enough school. So we have an empty school sitting there. The superintendent and her team made a recommendation that did include 3-year-olds. It's like a music program, phonological awareness. It's not like daycare or school probably as you would know it. And they just presented an idea to us. I heard it the same time all the other board members did. I did not oppose it. I'm open to it. So to say that I have a push for it, I haven't pushed for anything. I just heard the recommendation and I liked what I heard. So I do support that. And that's, my concern, not my concerns, but that's my comments on that. I didn't want you to think that I was ignoring that comment. And with that, that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair King. All right, Board Member Browning, anything else for the
Yes,
good of the
thank you.
cause?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I would like to put a focus on Stanton Wearsdale. It's a school that I've been involved with for a long time, and it's had an incredible need going back to 1904 when that community was originally established down in Wearsdale. 1904, almost before much of Marion County was developed, with the exception of up here in Ocala. The area on a unitary status, the 6 criteria for equality in that minority school established area, 1956 it was established. It is a operating currently operating museum of old problematic situations, especially when it comes to transportation, which is walk-in zone fits into that area. So I would like to bring that forward in the next period of time, and I'd like to hear from the board how they would like to, there's just a huge amount of data. There's an awful lot we can do. It can be done very quickly in terms of fair, decent, just crosswalks, stop signs, sidewalks. We've raised the money. We have the money. It's just a question of getting some of that information out. And I want to put that focus on Stanton Wearsdale, especially the walk-in zone, in the next pretty short foreseeable future. And finally, the last item that I have is I like the idea of us looking at other venues because we've got the venues here. They're available to us. There's absolutely no reason why we should be constrained to this little situation here, this square footage. And I would like to see everyone, just ask, could we come up with venues that we can then address so that we can move around the county, for example. We're a very mobile group, and so we could move around, take the heat off people, say in Dunellen, to drive up here for 3 minutes, for example, down in the Sandy Acres part of the world out, there are just so many things we could do, and I would like to see that get addressed, to the extent we can, because it will really matter long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Browning. Yes.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
For Mr. Browning. He said Stanton Wearsdale. You mentioned something about their walk-in.
The walk-in, yes, sir. On unitary status, there are 6 criteria. You have to be equality for sports. You have to be equality for instructors. You have to be, there are 6, but one of them is transportation. And the walk-in zone is the key, because that whole community is, I'm just going to make up a number, I'm not a surveyor, but 150 yards, 200 yards distance. And so to walk into the school, it's criminal the way it's continued on. And we had, in the last 2 years, 3 years, the federal Department of Education opened an entire case on it. It got shut down at the school board level, and I don't know exactly, I mean, we battled it, and I don't know all the forces, but it's a situation that could get handled in very short order, like a stop sign, like a crosswalk, like that type of thing. And so when you do walk in or walk home, you walk just like anybody else does in that tiny little area. I'm sure you're familiar. If you're not, we can announce it and I'll hold a meeting there. We have video. There's just a lot of ways to get the word out. And it's pretty simple to pull it all up together. And it's critical from the unitary status to retain that. It's critical that this take place.
Madam Chair, I'm asking that because I don't, maybe I'm hearing, it sounds like he's saying like there was like some safety issue.
Say it again?
Sounds like you're saying like there's like a safety issue.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. It's a crosswalk.
But my question,
just the simplest.
Madam Chair, if I may, would this be a good item for us to add to our intergovernmental meeting? Because I don't know that we can put a crosswalk on a county-run road or a stop sign. So perhaps if we wanted to elaborate in that discussion, it would be for the intergovernmental meeting where we're going to meet with county commissioners, because we don't have the authority to do something on a county road.
The other governmental entities.
Absolutely, all the other.
But if it's a safety issue.
Yes, sir.
Where people can get hurt.
Yes, sir.
That's not something we need to kick down the road to an intergovernmental meeting. We need to be pushing that issue if it's a safety issue.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm sounding like I'm hearing. It's a safety issue.
We have raised the funds, going back, Don Zaharias was the principal there. We raised the funds through DOT in 2000, let's say 2001, to put in sidewalks so that a child would be able to walk in a sovereign area as compared to, hey, kid, get off my lawn, or hey, kid, get out of the street. In other words, have a sidewalk. It went directly out of the school, across 42, and up and down in a section. And in this area, with about, again, 150, 200 yards of a school, of a road that was used by the school for 50 years. It was very difficult just to get that approved in that area in terms of state law that once maintained it was a road. So yes, absolutely, sir. That absolutely. I mean, it's so cut and dried that it's our purview. It isn't somebody else's purview. It's ours that under unitary status in Title VI, if I'm not mistaken, is it's required. It's required, or it goes back in front of a judge to make sure that it's equal and appropriate.
So, Madam Chair, can I ask the question? Can I ask you and the superintendent and this board that if it's that a safety issue, that we send Mr. McFadden out there to look at the situation, assess the situation? If it's safety, I'm concerned about kids' safety, about staff safety. And if it's something that's intergovernmental, because that's what it sounds like to me, that we need to be talking to the county commission.
I'll meet with them tomorrow, and I'd be glad to.
And Madam Chair, if I may, I do know that we had another school that had similar issues, that a neighborhood with lots and lots of children, and they're certainly across the street from a school, and they were able to actually get a bus stop in the neighborhood And so there might be opportunities apart from the intergovernmental. So thank you for bringing that up. But yes, if we can assess that for safety purposes, then
Right.
absolutely.
And that was going to be my question to Dr. Gullett as far as the approach to this. And it sounds like it would make good sense to have Mr. McFadden take a look. That can happen quickly and see really what we're up against here. There was also a ditch that needed to go alongside of a road that was flooding out a whole neighborhood. Did that ever get fixed?
No, and as a matter of fact, it's the packing plant there.
Yeah.
It's been there that was where most of this minority group worked. That was really the genesis of the subdivision that got established way back when. And no, it's problematic in that the neighborhood receives water retention zones everywhere that those sidewalks went. All the water comes into this little minority community. That's where it all goes. And from a mosquito point of view, all those things that were coming up, and we're talking 20 years we've been working with this. A ditch that you can Google it, you can look right, Google will show you the ditch that was there for 100 years. It was a dirt road, then it was a finished road, but that got a fence put touching the road, just the length of this little community. It's across the way. And then the ditch filled in. So now the water can't go down where it typically
Go out
went.
there and dig out the ditch tomorrow and there wouldn't be.
Exactly. We could handle it. I've had many a person say, look, I've got the tractors, I got this.
Right.
Well, I don't run the county. However, I've been working on this for a long time, and a lot of people have, all the way from congressmen to senators. Everybody has their heart in the right place, and it's just a simple question, I think, of putting focus on it. And that was my purpose tonight, to say I would like to see focus go on it, and everybody think about the best way to see. We could run the videos right here, the videos that have gone at St. John's Water Management. We've attacked it from many directions, and we do have HUD money that has been awarded, and we've been through with every survey known to man, and blight and slum and blight was the consideration. Well, that has to be corrected, and now children can come back. I mean, literally, they've gone off to the shores, they've gone off to a lot of places, live with grandma, what have you, I think, for some of the issues that are out there. And part of the population is getting very old as well. But I'd just like to bring focus, that's all.
I think that just goes to show you the scope of what this school board deals with and what we're ready to roll up our hands or roll up our sleeves and at least investigate. And, you know, sometimes you just get sometimes it takes way too long, and it's just a matter of getting the right people in the right room at the right time for the right reasons, and then boom, it's done. So, Dr. Gullett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll speak to Mr. McFadden. I'm sure he's outside listening still in our lobby, but I'll speak to him after the meeting, and I'm sure he'll probably make himself available tomorrow to be out there.
I will as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
My apologies. I do have one item.
Okay.
I'd like the board to consider, for the October 21st work session, we at this time only have 2 items. We have the 2022 tentative work session schedule, which, if it pleases the board, I can definitely provide that to you on Monday, since we will be here at Master Board, and that's just a matter of just sharing that document with you, as it is a fluid moving document. And the other item is just COVID-19 updates, and I believe Dr. Gullett indicated that those items, we would still be waiting on some data. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That we will just be waiting for that data on Friday. So even if the data is available Friday, we'll provide updates to the board. But that wouldn't. That would just be the beginning of our 2-week period if it begins on Friday.
I just wanted to let the board know so that if you wanted to, we could cancel the October 21st work session, and since we still will have COVID-19 updates on the November 4th, but that is certainly amongst consensus for you to have discussion and decide.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring it forward.
Right, thank you. One thing that I had in my mind that I was going to share in my comments, which I'll do my best to make brief, is that I would like to get an update on where we are with transportation and our efforts, both short, medium, and long term, to address the needs. We all, most of us anyway, and so many people in the community know how difficult it has been to retain, recruit bus drivers, bus aides. We have a lot of employees there that have been with us for decades that are starting to retire out now. And to use a very bad pun, transportation drives this school system. We are the size of Rhode Island. And if we're not getting our kids to school on time, every day, safely, calmly, ready to learn, we're shooting ourselves in the foot before they even get out the door. And we know this. And that we have a lot of ideas of how to make things better. And I think that we've made some progress. I think that transportation certainly knows that we see them and that we have been doing lots of different things. But I really would like to get an update. So if that can be added to a work session while still canceling the one on October 21st, that's fine. But that is something I would like to get an update on sooner than later. Is there a, did you have something?
You just jogged my memory with something with transportation, because we know that our transportation department is trying to get these kids there on time. But I'm thinking, Dr. Gullett, that we're getting ready to run into a problem, because I'm getting constant reports of kids that have IEPs, ESE kids, that are getting to school beyond their first period classes. So that puts us in violation of their IEPs, and that's serious. So I don't know how we resolve this issue, because, and I talked to transportation today, I talked to different people today, and we got to figure out something, because we're in the second 9 weeks now, and that is something very serious for us to be in violation of.
And we have gen ed kids that also deserve their education that are constantly late to school because of drivers doing their utmost and covering 3 and 4 and 5 routes. So we know the level of commitment, but this is also something, well, let's first, can we get that on a work session and still be able to cancel the 21st?
Well, the next work session is November 4th. So that would be, I don't know if that's a little later than what you want, or we can leave the 21st as is and bring updates from the transportation if Dr. Gullett feels we can have.
I'd rather leave the 21st as is. You know, we have a lot going on, and if we don't stay on top of it, then it's just going to, you know, it's a big beast to wrestle. So I personally would like to keep the work session on the 21st.
That's fine.
I'm fine.
We're good? Okay.
Leave it on there.
Is there still time to add something to that agenda?
Yeah, we haven't advertised it yet.
Did Elena just roll her eyes at you?
No.
What do you have, sir?
There's something at Westport with the athletic department I wanted to get on to.
The what?
At Westport with the athletic department.
Oh, athletic department.
Athletic department.
You're speaking mask.
And I just hadn't had the time to get it sent to you to get it onto a work session agenda. But it's about maybe a 15-minute presentation.
Okay.
Nothing major.
Who's hoping?
I'll get it to you.
Okay, so I will need it by noon tomorrow. My deadline is
I'll get it to you.
noon tomorrow.
I'll get it to you.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. These are just some examples, you know, and I like to focus on what's going right. I'm a practical realist. We have a lot of challenges in this school system. We always have and we always will. COVID-19 has certainly exacerbated those challenges. There has been a price to pay for staying open face-to-face. We have taken our hits with quarantines. We have taken our hits with deaths. We have taken our hits with, illness, people out of school. But we have remained open because we know that that's what's best for the vast majority of our kids. And we have certainly been battle tested, but I certainly don't feel battle weary. We need to continue and we need to provide that enthusiasm and inspiration and thankfulness to our staff that it's worth it to keep going. And we're at a crossroads. We have a lot of teachers and and staff members that have been with us for many, many years. And if there ever was a time to look and see if you could afford to retire, this would probably be it, because it has been a tremendous challenge. And I'd like to emphasize that, because I think about all the other public entities that they weren't even doing business, they weren't allowing people in to have access, nothing. And schools closed for almost 2 years, and we didn't do that. So while and for every study, there's another study. I'm at the point where I don't even want to focus on that anymore. What I want to focus on is moving forward and getting to the point where we can have some typicality again and get our focus back on our mission, which is developing functional contributing citizens in the United States of America and wherever else in the world they choose to go. So even though this has been a longish meeting tonight, I'm going to leave it inspired the way I always have, because I just put a picture of a child in my head whenever the going gets tough. Why are we doing this? And I would like to take a quick moment of silence. The moment couldn't be long enough, because it's to honor the life of a student. Hillcrest School for Exceptional Children is a gem in our school system. Thank goodness Nikki Reyes did not pass away at school, but she did pass away at home this week. And she had been a student at Hillcrest for many years. This is a child that did not have the blessing to even be born with eyes. She had so many challenges. And when she came to us, this was a child, we talk about trying to do what's best for kids, because when a child is pulling out their own hair, because they're just so upset and you can't see and you can't process very well, and where am I? And this child went from the age of 14 to the age of 17. She might have started with us at 13, but anyway, she went from a scared, aggressive-looking child to a happy, connected kid. And it was all because of the teachers and the staff and the love and the support and the opportunities for this young lady to become as independent as she could possibly be. And Marion County Public Schools, and Hillcrest Schools specifically, did that for Nikki, did that for her family, and did that to be a constant reminder to this community that is what we are here for, to make sure that every single student gets as many opportunities as they can to be successful, no matter how great their challenges. And every single one of them has a different story. And we open the doors and we do our best to serve them all. So I'd just like to take a quick moment of silence to honor Nikki, and to actually honor this school system for their commitment to our children. No matter how hard it's been, no matter how hard it will get, we are going to keep going. So if I could please just have a brief moment of silence. And I say, fly high in heaven, dear Nikki, because you were definitely loved. Okay. I think that's all I have. And if there isn't anything else for the good of the cause, we're going to need to move on to alternative placements. Before addressing expulsion matters, I wish to acknowledge that board members have received the alternative placement lists for students through September 23rd, 2021. Ms. Martinez-Lopez, are there any parents who have submitted a timely request to speak on their child's disciplinary matter?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. May I have a motion then to approve the expulsion of student JD 22-007, JD 22-008, JD 22-009, and JD 22-010 with educational services through the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Board Member Campbell, seconded by Vice Chair King. All those, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Moved by Board Member Cummings, seconded by Board Member Campbell. This meeting is adjourned at 8:20 p.m. Thank you, everyone.